Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Tanner Reviews the World. Now, on today's episode, I want to give you all a little insight into my life and a tradition that I've had for a couple of years now. Now, I'm going to freely admit, I love reading books. I've always loved reading books. They're so much fun to get into. But the problem is that with my life, it's always a little busy that I don't have enough time to sit down and get fully invested into one. So, a couple years back, I made a little deal with myself that once a year, whenever fall or winter came around and, the weather got a little bit colder, I would read one of my favorite books of all time. And that is what we are reviewing today, and that is Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. This is one of my favorite books, and my favorite book by Agatha Christie. The second one would probably be And Then There Were None, which I also have right up here. It's good. It's actually a classic. And pretty much any slasher flick, it wouldn't even be in existence if it weren't for And Then There Were None. But Agatha Christie, I think, her best work is with Murder on the Orient Express. And it's not really even about the story. I mean, the story does follow another one of the exploits of Hercule Poirot, one of actually my favorite detective. He's actually head and shoulders above Sherlock Holmes in my opinion, as far as just character-wise. I love Hercule Poirot. But I think out of all of Poirot's adventures, Murder on the Orient Express is the best. And it's the best writing that I think Agatha Christie's done. And that's saying something coming from probably one of the most influential writers of all time. I love Murder on the Orient Express. It is just a perfect story, and I think should be the template that all, murder mystery should follow. It's just that good. The overlying story is Hercule Poirot gets on the Orient Express and is heading from Istanbul back to Calais with Monsieur Booth. Everyone, please forgive me for my French. I don't speak French, and I'm not that great at it, but I'll try my best. He gets on a train with Monsieur Booth, and they're traveling back to Calais, and naturally, wherever Poirot goes, murder follows him. It's kind of a bad luck with him, but it happens. And then the story goes on, who killed this guy, Mr. Ratchet. And this is just truly fantastic writing, because, whenever you read a murder mystery, you're always playing along with the story, with the narrative. You're always saying, alright, let's see if I can figure this one out. Who did it? Why did they do it? How did they do it? How could it possibly be done? Whose alibi doesn't check out? Whose story just doesn't add up? And usually with a lot of murder mysteries, you can kind of piece them together. I mean, you're not at the level that the detective is at, because, let's be honest, he is the master detective. Whenever you're reading Sherlock Holmes or Poirot or Miss Marple or anything like that, you're not going to be able to compete with them, because that's just the way it is. They're the professionals. They're the best of the best. But you try to. You always try to in a murder mystery. You try to figure it out, and you're like, oh yeah, I knew it was him, or I didn't know it was them. And usually, with the stories, you can kind of piece it together. You can kind of, look at the story and say, alright, this guy's looking pretty suspicious. In Murder on the Orient Express, though, what's beautiful is that they take away every single little detail that you go on as a reader of a murder mystery. All the alibis check out on the train. It has to be somebody on this train. All the alibis check out. All the evidence points towards one person who has the perfect alibi. Other evidence points towards this person who has another perfect alibi. And then no evidence at all, is pointing, but she doesn't have an alibi, but there's absolutely no way they could do it. It's beautiful the way that she plays it off. And I have to say that the ending is just spectacular. It is spectacular the way that they put it together. And I have to say that the ending is also another way that Agatha Christie really shows off Poirot and how you can't get anything by him, but his character is just head and shoulders above other people. Just, the way that he acts, the way that his character is. I'm going to try to explain this without giving anything away because I never like to give things away in books. We'll put it to you this way. Without giving any spoilers, the victim, Mr. Ratchet, is a horrible human being who ended up kidnapping and killing a little girl. And the whole story, kind of centers around this little narrative. It's the motivation for why he was murdered in the first place. And whenever the ending comes up, and we find out who the real murderer is, Poirot figures it out. You can't get anything by Poirot. Poirot will figure it out. But at the same time, he looks at this and says, you know what? This murder seems justified. It really does. And then you still have to ask the question, should we really, should this murder actually be tried for bringing a person to justice that could not be brought to justice? And it's one of those things that it's, it just builds up character that, detectives aren't cut and dry. It's not just the law is the law. I guess if you want to put it in D&D standards, they're not lawful neutral. The law is not the absolute code. The code is still being a good, upstanding person, and it really builds Poirot's character at the end whenever he comes to this, realization. And it's just a beautiful ending. And I think one of the best endings that a book has ever had. And honestly, for what this book is, I think it's actually underrated. Whenever they give the list of, the greatest, or most influential books of all time, Murder on the Orient Express should be pretty high up there on, how to tell a story and how to tell a murder mystery. It's just that fantastic, and I don't think that this book gets the credit that it deserves. Even though it does get plenty of credit, it doesn't get enough. It really doesn't. And I think this is one of Christie's masterpieces. One of her hands-down best books. It's my personal favorite. And I will honestly go on record to say that I think it is the best of her books. Now, once again, that's just my opinion, but that's why I'm here filming. I will put it down that this is the best book by Agatha Christie, and I recommend that everybody pick up a copy. I guarantee you that your local bookstore will have this book. Pick up a copy and read it. It will not let you down. It keeps you guessing from page one, and it keeps you thinking, and it just keeps going, and especially, if you're a murder mystery nut, there is no other greater book to test your might. If you're that person that loves to read these things just for the sake of reading them, just to figure out, hey, can I figure out who the killer is? Pick up this book. I challenge you to see if you can figure out who the killer is. Because I guarantee you, this one will throw even the most die-hard murder mystery enthusiast for a loop. So, in closing, on my scale of 1 to 5, I am giving this a 5. And I still feel like that's not giving it enough credit. This book is fantastic. And I recommend everybody to go out, pick this up, read it. You will not be disappointed. And that is it for me. It does feel good whenever you can actually give a positive review on the internet. But that's it. Until next time, I will see you later.